Today I would like to talk about charity.
Charity.
Charity is on my mind.
That's an interesting topic because I've
How do
read
you feel about
some
charity?
things.
Tell me what you've read.
On a philosophical sense, like I'm still reading the book because I read this book slowly. It's called the Vedanta Treatise. It's basically a book that teaches you how to live life. It's like a more thoughtful approach to living life, right? And it teaches many things. It teaches a lot of great things. But one thing it does talk about is charity. And it's not necessarily against charity at all. Like if you're giving out of love, if you're giving because you have the ability to give and you're coming from a place of abundance, and what you're giving is helping, like whoever you're giving to is going to help them grow, then that's a good type of giving. But if you're giving something and it doesn't have a positive impact, then A, what's the point of that? And B, are you doing it because you're doing it out of pity? You know, like you just feel bad, like in a way,
Guilt.
You're feeling guilty.
Mm-hmm.
That energy that you're giving isn't helpful, nor is it helping the other person.
Right.
So if you're giving out of pity, that tends to not be helpful for anyone involved. It's not helpful for you, the giver, because it puts you in this feeling of this not pleasant feeling, and you're probably dealing with something that you haven't really dealt. Like you're trying to address something you haven't dealt with internally, and that also doesn't help the other person if you're giving it to them and it's not really making their situation better. Then you're just kind of feeding a black hole. So it depends. Not all charity is bad. I'm not saying that at all. But you have to look at what actual effect it has. Like, is it a worthwhile cause, or should something else be done? So that's what I had been reading in that book, and I do agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thoughts on it. What were your thoughts on it?
Good thoughts, positive thoughts. My thoughts on it were, so I've been collecting data for a while. I've been thinking about this charity thing for a while.
Mm-hmm.
When Casey was visiting, he was telling me about our friend Casey, who lives in the jungle, how he sponsors oftentimes wells for these villages who have to travel long ways for water, and when they find water, it's not very clean.
Mm-hmm.
So he's put these wells in these villages, and he hasn't had good long-term results as far as the villages in the beginning tend to seem happy and grateful, and over time they just stop the maintenance on the wells.
They stop caring about it.
Right. And then some other things happen that have made me see different, things in different ways, like my beliefs about how humanity is evolving now, as far as like a new story that doesn't stem from debt and lack.
Mm-hmm.
And like recently, our friend Patrick visited, and he shared this story about.
He's very obsessed with providing clean water and having alternative water sources. Right. He's very passionate about it.
Very passionate about it.
He stays up late at night thinking about this.
Yeah.
And if you get him started on the topic, he will talk your ear off on it. Yeah. And it's beautiful to see that kind of passion.
Absolutely.
But go ahead with the story. I think I know where this is going.
Well, you shared this story about, I'm not sure who it was. I just got tidbits of it, but somebody who put in these wells in these villages that didn't have water, but didn't give it to them. Kind of asked them if they wanted it, and if they wanted it, they'd have to pay for half of it.
Right.
And I like that. I heard of it, and then they're saying they're having fantastic long-term results because now the villages are invested in the clean water.
That's the difference.
And it's no longer like, hey, we're coming in here, we know what's better for you. You guys need clean water.
Right.
And I can, it's like their savior.
Mhm.
That's what they call it in the one. You know, we talk about the personalities. They call it the demons or the saviors, right?
Mhm.
They're both really demons. Like too much savior, too much demon, right? It's all the same.
Right.
And so we think we can come in and be these heroes, but in a sense, no, they didn't ask for it,
Yeah.
right? We just imposed it upon them.
Yeah.
And yes, they were getting sick, and yes, but they weren't even aware of it, right? They're just doing their best.
Yeah. What you think someone wants may not be what they actually want.
Right. But instead, like it seems, I don't know too much, but it seems like if they took the approach of approaching these villages in more of a neighborly way and kind of befriending them and seeing, you know, kind of a neighbor helping a neighbor, like, hey, we notice that you guys are going a long way for some dirty water. Like, look at this clean water.
Yeah.
And kind of introduce it. Like, maybe they ask, like, how do we get this clean water? Oh, it's like these wells, you know, it's like there's water underground. I didn't even know that. There's water underground apparently pretty much anywhere, I guess.
Right.
But it, you know, obviously it takes a system, and you know, this idea of self-sustainability is very romantic, but the self-sustainability is us, like creating a system that revolves around us.
We have to do it.
Yeah.
Meaning it doesn't take care of itself.
Right.
It means that, if we want that, we can keep this going.
And we can create a system where we're all playing a role and we're all participating and we're all benefiting, and there's more of it follows the law of compensation, which is giving and taking and giving and taking.
But people have to want it, and they have to be invested in it. Like if people will walk 4 hours for water, like that, clearly that's something that they want.
Yeah, obviously.
Right? But going back to the whole Patrick example, you know, when Patrick was visiting, this is very interesting because our other friend, Adam, who was talking about how he learned something very big about, you know, charity and good works when he did his final project for his business masters. He went over to South Africa, and I think they were supposed to, the group that was there was supposed to figure out how to help this village, right? But something that they learned from the villagers was that the villagers were saying, like, a lot of people, they come and they visit our village and they see, oh, we need electricity or we need water or whatever. But what they don't do is they don't ask us what we want. So they just come in and see things and they just kind of create their own plans and do it. And it ends up not really working because the villagers don't want whatever they're bringing. So taking that feedback, the group that went there, they're like, okay, well, what do you guys really want then? So yeah, they didn't have electricity or anything. Like they had these like really long wires that would go like across the way from house to house to like make something work, right? Machine. But and yet that wasn't really their main issue. What they wanted to learn was how, like, they wanted to learn how to basically like go online and access applications in order to apply for like job interviews. Yes, that was their main concern. So the group kind of, they pretty much figured out how to like, don't get computers set up and donate it there and help people like find jobs. Like that's what they were interested in, because there were, I guess, programs that could help you find jobs there. Like they didn't want necessarily the village to be better, they just wanted the young people to be able to go out and find jobs.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
But that takes a conversation.
Yeah, we can't just be assuming.
You can't assume. Essentially, like, it's really interesting. As good as your intentions are, is the person you're giving this to, or is the group that you're giving whatever you're giving to, do they want what you want to give? It's very interesting, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we think that, well, this is a great idea, this is amazing, but if no one's interested in it, is it really going to catch on?
That makes me think, Angela, because right now we're in the midst of sponsoring this garden project.
Yes.
And, you know, it's kind of because we wanted to do it. I've been wanting to do something like this for a long time. But essentially we're relying for the maintenance of it for the people that didn't really ask for it.
Right.
And so
we'll find out.
We'll find out.
We'll find out.
This is science experiment. We're learning because this
is
learning. You know,
this is a beautiful intention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it just goes to show, like, even when your intent is pure, it still can be misguided, and it's because we're so swept up by the momentum of what we've seen our entire lives and what we think charity is. And this is a good opportunity to maybe take a step back and just see how things work out.
I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
So what Jay is referring to is that a group of our friends and close acquaintances have essentially raised money and funds and hands to create a garden project for our friends at the Colette's Children's Home, which is a Orange County-based nonprofit that helps women and children find permanent housing, and also enrolls women who qualify into the program to help them become self-sufficient. Mm-hmm. And they also have, like, in these homes where they house a lot of the women, homes and apartment complexes, there's a lot of plots of land that aren't being used. They're just kind of sitting there. And so the idea was to basically make them into sustainable gardens. So that's what we're helping out with this weekend, and it's a beautiful project, and a lot of people are getting involved, and we're having like fruit trees and things delivered there. But you're right, it's just like the question, like, was anyone really consulted in this, in terms of if they wanted to do this? I'm not sure. I wasn't involved in that.
Sure.
I'm just like, sure, I just want to help out.
Yeah.
But this is a very interesting thing. Now that we're talking about this, and now that I'm realizing, like, from the different examples that I've heard from other people, is this going to work out? Is this going to be self-sustaining? And by self-sustaining, the people who are living there, are they going to really take it upon themselves to make this work? I don't know.
Yeah. Would they want to?
And would they want to? No, we're gonna find out. So this is going to be an experiment on a grand scale, where a lot of beautiful, great intention is put into it.
Yeah.
And I hope so. I hope that it's what people want, but we shall see.
Yeah, we shall see. Either way, it's a great experiment. We are going to get some fruit trees out of it, and I'm curious. Like, it comes from a good place, because either way, it's a win-win. Like, if it didn't work out, I'd like to go back to the drawing board and see what else, because this issue of self-sustainability, like, there's a disconnect, and it's because I think we're somehow programmed to think that somebody else should handle it. Mm-hmm. And maybe more community environments where there's actually communication. Like, for instance, where we're going today, I don't know, but I don't think that they're even communicating amongst themselves. They're kind of just like regular neighbors, and our neighbors, like, we don't even know them for the most part. And so I'm curious. I see a lot of holes in what we're doing, but I like it, because that way it's actually
a learning
in this third dimension. I can see and I can touch it, rather than all in my imagination. It's too much to process. And so this is real world experiments, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be able to be a part of it. And I'm grateful to be able to talk about it, because it's going to be, ongoing, and progress will be made inevitably.
I think I do believe progress is inevitable, right? Let's say that not everything goes as planned, but we've learned something here.
Yeah.
So the next time we try to do something, it could be better. Or even if it goes fantastically, then we could be like, well, it went fantastic, that's great. But like, during the process, I could see where we could do better. Let's improve upon that and have an even greater result. So good
Absolutely.
or bad, there's something to be gleaned from this.
Absolutely. Win-win.
Win-win.
High five.
How long have you been thinking about that? Just
2 days. 2 days of processing.
2
No, but I've
days
been
of
thinking
deep
about
thinking.
the entire idea of charity I've been collecting data on this question for a while. So now I've collected enough data to where I can share a little bit of it, filtered through my mind.
I used to be involved in a nonprofit before, like as a fellow. Right after I graduated from college, the first thing I did was actually just be I was accepted into a fellowship for, I don't know if it exists anymore. I looked it up and I don't see it online. Maybe it evolved into something else, but it used to be called the Women's Initiative of Silicon Valley. And that was a program where it taught women how to be entrepreneurs, but like on a micro scale. So part of the program was to help women, like the women who didn't have access to other like educational materials or didn't have access to like the computers, to help them with learning how to set up their own business. And another part of the nonprofit was it would partner with the city on getting on different banks. It was partnered with banks on getting microloans to these women. So if they wanted to like invest, they would know how to have, they would have access to these loans with like really, really low to no interest. It was a great program. But yeah, like women would have to apply, like essentially they would have to apply for it, and they would have to like go through the system and get vetted and everything. And you know, there would be like progress reports where if they weren't really feeling the program, they could drop out early, so they wouldn't have to, both sides wouldn't have to waste time. I like that model because these were women. Clearly, if you want to go into any kind of business, you have to be fairly self-driven, right? So there were a lot of like great little success stories from that.
Nice.
Again, it wasn't completely successful. There were people who like maybe tried it, didn't work out, but at least they tried, right? At least they knew they went through the program. But I do think there's a need, like in my experience of working at nonprofits or doing charity, there has to be a want from both sides, right? That feeling of investment, a passion from both the organization, you know, as much as I had a good time and great learning at the nonprofit, perhaps it was through my youthful eyes or my idealism, but I could also see how things could be done with more energy or more intention. Sometimes when you have an institution that's been around for a while, things can like. The funny thing is, you work to get things to a point of stability, but once you get to a point of stability, sometimes you don't want to innovate anymore, or sometimes you don't want to test things out anymore. Like you're kind of content. So sometimes I got that sense.
Maybe you have that sense of like now you have something to lose. You don't want to risk too much.
Yeah, there's that sense. And like when I came, like I remember giving not criticism, but like constructive feedback on like, oh, how things could be different. And they're like, well, would you like to? They turned it back on me, and they're like, would you like to make those changes? And I think that's fair. At first, looking back on it, I have a different perspective. At the time, I was like, well, shouldn't you? You're the one running the place, right? And there's something to that, like, don't you want to? At the same time, with like some years behind me, I do realize that, oh, well, maybe they were inviting new blood. Like maybe that was my chance to like step up and want to do something to contribute to the organization better. But I think due to my lack of experience, I didn't have confidence. So I kind of spurned it. Looking back, I feel I kind of regret that. I think I should have just engaged with it. Yeah. But I kind of put it back on them and like, no, you should do it. You're the one who's been doing this for so long. Instead of seeing that as an opportunity to do something. Yeah.
Essentially, they were giving you the opportunity to do what you think should be done.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I guess just out of inexperience and just kind of probably even a small sense of entitlement, I was just like, no, you should.
Right.
You should do this. So, it's a little bit of a tangent, but it was just interesting how I've changed over the years, understanding that, and it's difficult. Honestly, to do anything on that scale is difficult. So, if there's young people who have feedback, it's great if they are able to not just give that feedback, but to be involved. Like if someone gives me an opportunity to go ahead and take charge on something, with the understanding of like, I've been doing this a long time. Maybe I have blinders on. Maybe I don't see with fresh eyes what can be done. I'm always welcoming when someone has a suggestion. I'm like, great, I support you. Let's go do this.
Yeah.
Tell me what you want to do with this.
Awesome. Totally.
Yeah.
I feel you.
Have you worked for any nonprofits before?
No, I haven't. I created my own private foundation.
There you go. See?
Yeah.
I think that's plenty. And what have you done?
right now we're sponsoring a garden.
So that's true. That's the current project that we're talking about.
Yeah.
I think it's again.
Yeah, it's officially our first project.
Woot. Well,
Woot, woot.
well, again, we'll see. We'll see how this
We'll
really
learn.
turns out.
We'll learn from it for sure. But yeah, it just raises a new perspective on things, and maybe allows us to even redefine what charity means, what we want it to mean. I mean, I think there's a better word. I think like magnanimity or something like that is maybe defines better what we want to do, rather than charity kind of implies like that somebody is in debt to you for some reason.
I think that's an important point. Because if you think about it, no one wants to accept charity.
Yeah.
There's almost like a feeling of pride, like just maybe it could hurt someone's pride to feel like they have to accept charity from someone, because in a way that might affect someone's view of themselves, to think that they're so downtrodden that they need that it's obvious that they need help. And I think that's hard for a lot of people to take. And in a way, there may be a subconscious desire or impulse to self-sabotage when charity is given. Perhaps.
It seems to be. Like it seems to be programmed to be the effect of...
Because no one wants to feel like they need that help.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't have the answer to this. I'm just saying that I can see how subconsciously someone may be already rejecting the idea of receiving charity. Like even when I know like someone just offers to help me with something, what's the normal response? No, I got it.
Yeah.
Right? No, I don't want you to trouble yourself. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Right? And that's, just for small things. For the bigger things, the feeling of like providing shelter or food or warmth or just like the really basic needs. I think people are just being like, I can't even provide this for myself.
Yeah.
It's almost, there may even be a desire to be like, I can do this, I'm fine with it. I can deal with it. I don't need your help.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is for everyone. I'm sure there's plenty of people who are like, no, I'll take, I have kids, I'll take what I need. There's that group too.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to paint anyone with like a blanket statement. But for those where charity doesn't seem to work, I wonder if there's that kind of mentality working.
Yeah, there seems to be something to it, because like even it's not called charity, but when people take advantage of like government food stamps or things like that, it's something that they seem to either feel entitled to it or...
Oh, that's a different kind of thing. That's
it's
an entitlement.
It's the other thing. It's the other side of it. Like, so there's a fine balance. Obviously, like, if we're in a place where we need help, it's good to accept it. It's healthy to accept it.
I think it's healthy to accept it and like get back on your feet. Like just accept that with
take it for what it is and use
gratitude.
it and use that as a as a forward momentum for you to get your shit together.
As a forward push. Yeah.
And instead, or rather than feel like, well, always reaching out for the next one, because then you're not willing to do it yourself. You're not willing to just get a little bit of help so you can go the rest. You just want somebody always there to kind of continue to feed you, and then there's this entitlement thing to it. There's this weird, and then there's the other side you were talking about where you don't want it, like I can do it. And then there's that healthy balance where you take it as you need it,
really
and you're grateful for it,
yeah,
and you're able to use it as a boost or motivation. And then so you just really never know who's going to act how. Right? At
the end of this conversation,
it's
we're back at square one.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not square one, but it's
an awareness of it.
Yeah, it's an awareness of it where, I mean, it's like that Will Smith movie, The Pursuit of Happiness, where he just he takes the help he can get, right?
Yeah, because he ultimately seeks shelter, right?
Right. Yeah, it's desperate times.
Desperate times.
But essentially every day he's getting out there, and that's why he eventually gets, you know, the reward. But meanwhile, most of those people standing in that line were not gonna do that Will Smith thing. You know, it takes a lot of heart and faith, and you really have to dig deep for it. Not everybody is made for it. But it's irrelevant to what we're doing, because we're just experimenting in life.
Is it irrelevant? I don't think it's irrelevant.
Seeing.
It's relevant to me, at least into my past, because
Yeah.
I know my family had to rely on things like government help, like I think it's called CalWorks now, but before it was just cash aid, and also food stamps. I know my mom applied for those things and actually got them, and Medi-Cal, like medical care, because we couldn't afford it as kids, or as a family. My mom was largely, for a long time, a single mom, immigrant. Had 4 kids and had to make things work. So she applied for that, and she obviously met income minimums. And I remember getting things like free lunch growing up. But I was always aware of that. I was always aware, and as much as I was thankful for it, even as a child, I remember this very distinctly. I remember being grateful that we had that, because it helped alleviate the burden of my mom having to work. Because it was hard to be both like a full-time mom and trying to make ends meet. So it was good to have those things. At the same time, I just remember thinking, I don't want to rely on this all the time either. Because there is a feeling
How old were
of
you
worth.
when you had that thought?
Very early on. For as long as I can remember, honestly.
Wow.
Just feeling seeing that was difficult, and also just, this feeling of I don't want to be seen as someone who needs a hand all the time. And it's really funny, because I don't think anyone ever said that to me.
Yeah.
But there was this inherent kind of this sense of pride. I want to be able to just have my own things and be able to afford that. And I didn't look down on my mother for having to do that. She had to do what she had to do. But I think I just felt bad. I felt bad that we were in a position to have to ask for that.
Yeah.
So I think that really motivated me from an early age to do well in school, and I graduate early and try to get a job early, and all those things.
So what is it? What is it that, because not everybody has that, right? So is it just how we're raised, how we perceive things?
I don't know.
Yeah, right? It's hard
I don't know. It can go either way.
Yeah, it can go either way.
It really can go either way, and it depends on.
Because it's even beyond personality. It's what is it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, and I've tried to think about this. It's like when you get the example of someone who grows up in an abusive household, right? You either become a person who rails against that and vows never to do that, and works for organizations that work against abusive households, try to prevent abuse from happening in households, or you become an abuser yourself. You see both. You see both types of people arise from that kind of situation. Is that nature? Is that nature? Is that nurture? Is that past lives? Is that environment? Is it some flashpoint, some turning point that the person observes early on in life? I don't know. It works in different ways. And that's why every person's a miracle, because everyone has a very unique story to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't pretend to sit here and be because I'm this way, I expect everyone else to be that way. I'm just me. Yeah. I think that's the problem with a lot of social or political discourse. We're just well, I was this way, why can't you be this way?
Exactly.
And I'm well, yes and no. Yes and no.
Yeah, that statement could use a little more compassion.
Yeah. Just a little bit. But then I can also but doesn't a person who does pull themselves up from their bootstraps don't they deserve some recognition on some level? Like, you were able to do that. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to diminish someone's accomplishment. At the same time, I don't want to pull people down who are already down. It's hard. Life's
It's
hard.
Yeah,
life's hard. I have no answers for you. Figure it out.
Yeah. Essentially, that's what we're saying. That is exactly what we're saying.
Terrible?
If you've come here for answers,
I don't have them.
You've come
to the wrong place. Please click on to the next video in your queue. Go watch.
But comment below with any questions so we can come back next time and not answer them.
Just go watch the video of that dog and that cat hugging it out. Just.
It's a great video.
it's a great feel-good video and a lot of likes.
All right. So, in conclusion, charity kind of sucks.
Does it? Is that the?
That was my take on today.
Is that your take? I wouldn't say it sucks.
It kind of sucks. I said
Kind of sucks. So it's kind of sucks, kind of great.
I mean, the
kind of good.
The intention behind it is great.
The intention is beautiful.
The conclusion of it, the execution of it is could use some work.
The consequences.
Yeah, the consequences of it could use some better guidance.
Yeah, it just I think the approach to it, the approach to charity.
Yeah, our approach to charity.
Yeah, support. Is there a better word for it? Is there a better? Please give your word a suggestion for what is, or does it need a new label, or is it just how we think about it? Do you think it's more about thinking about it,
like redefining it,
like what you were mentioning, like being grateful, but at the same time, just using it as seeing it as a stepping stone to just helping yourself.
I mean, if you can get yourself to do that, it would be optimal. Your conclusions would be optimal,
right?
If that's the approach you took. That's a good takeout out of today. Because you can be the one to just change that. I think it's consciousness. That's the answer. Consciousness is what.
That's the answer to everything.
It is. I forgot about her. How could I forget?
How could you forget about her?
Yeah, I think that maybe that's what it is. It's the people that can't get themselves to do it are not conscious enough. And the ones doing it are the ones who are conscious. They're literally, it's what it means. Like, you became conscious of that you were receiving these benefits and you didn't want that to be your story forever. You had that thought.
Yeah, I didn't
That's
want it
a
to be my
conscious
story
thought.
forever. That's true. It was a
That's
very
a conscious thought. Other people would just
keep going.
Yeah, they would just be caught
They
up.
would be in that hypnotic rhythm. Outwitting the devil.
But what did you do? You broke that hypnotic rhythm. You broke it with what? Your beliefs.
The power of
so
belief.
Sweet. I knew this was going somewhere. I was like, no, we can't just end it. We don't know.
I was like, no.
We have to know.
I was like,
something.
no, don't tell me that it just sucks a little bit.
It's consciousness.
We couldn't end on
to
that
the rescue.
Dun, 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 dun.
Consciousness.
The bird, the plane. It's consciousness.
Yeah. That's how you win the game. You become conscious.
Yeah. Conscious thought, like where you are, what this is doing for you. Not just accepting this as your reality, your new norm.
Yeah. And it's a practice.
It is a practice.
It's a practice. And maybe in some people it's natural to that spark of consciousness. In other people, maybe you have to see it in others to realize it within yourself. Either way, consciousness prevails.